This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to Lair the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. And for this episode, a special episode here, we have a bunch of special guests joining us, subscribers and viewers of the Lair the Alchemist YouTube channel. I put out a video there inviting people on to talk with us about their top 5 albums of 2022. I already did a video with my top 10 of 2022, but I was curious what everybody's top 5s were. So we're going to do that. And we're also going to take some time to talk about some albums or concerts or musical things that we are looking forward to in 2023. So let's introduce the guests here. We've got Room of the Ancient Mariner. He's in the Room of the Ancient Mariner. We've got Kevin, we've got Butch, and we've got Williams. So this should be fun here. So I'm going to start, at least in my view here in the top left-hand corner. We're going to jump over to the Room of the Ancient Mariner. So Ancient Mariner there, tell us what your, thanks for coming on the show, and give us what your top 5 were for 2022.
Yeah, great idea. Thanks. The Room of the Ancient Mariner, taken from the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, classic Iron Maiden album, a song, of course. I don't know how to change my Google handle, apparently, because my new channel is actually the Vinyl Junkie record shop. I've got the Vinyl Junkie thing in the background there. So anyway, my name is Mike. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for having me on. And we'll just jump right in here. So my number 5 was Blind Guardian with the God Machine. Really, they need no introduction. I think that over the years, I've always been a fan of the band, but this particular album, I think, was kind of a return to their classic power metal sounding form. And I think this album kind of gives off more of a edgier vibe. I think the guitar riffs are a little thrashier in spots, a little heavier. Hansi Kirsch's vocal delivery is always spot on, and the songwriting is just is really good. And I just found myself going back to it every time and hearing something new with each subsequent listen. So I just think it's, at this stage in the game, they're a band that kind of defines what heavy metal always has been and what still is and will be going forward. So number 4 for me, this was my refreshing find of the year, and I have a little bit of an emotional attachment to this album, I think, because I got to meet these guys when they played a show in Indianapolis, and they were really down to earth, and that makes a difference to me. So I listened to the album more and more. But again, with each listen to this album, I found myself getting something new and different. And this is a death metal band out of Fargo, South Dakota. The band is called Maul, M-A-U-L. It's kind of hard to see there on the album. But really excellent album art. Just the whole package kind of pops out at you. They're on Redefining Darkness Records, which is an up-and-coming label. And they just kind of have, they're not they don't fall into that pigeonhole variety of a like Swedish death metal or, typical Floridian or New York style death metal. They have a lot of different flavors in there. The thing that's, I think, unique about the most is I know that death metal vocals aren't everyone's cup of tea, and they're not always mine, honestly. And this guy just, he sounds inhuman in a lot of these songs. And a lot of time in death metal, you're like, okay, that's a dude who is trying to sound like an animal or something, but at the end of the day, it's still a dude. This doesn't sound like a human. This guy just sounds like some evil entity coming out of your speakers, and I think it's just a great performance. But anyway, Maul from Fargo, South Dakota, great album, great guys. Check them out if you're not familiar with them. Coming in at number 3, this band was all the rage a couple years ago when their debut came out. It was the number 1 album for a lot of people then. I wasn't quite that high on the bandwagon, but with this album, it just it got me on full board, I guess. And it's Canada's Riot City with Electric Elite. Again, they're not reinventing the wheel here by any stretch of the means, but what they're doing is they're just taking that classic metal sound and kind of invigorating it with modern productions, modern energy, modern everything. And again, if everything about metal that's good about metal is going to be in here. Soaring guitar solos, great vocals. I think what has me with this album better than the debut is I think this singer is just kind of was that little missing element that they had. I don't know their names, but they had the lead guitar player was doing the singing duties on Unleash the Night. Is that the name of the first album? And then they recruited a new singer who does just the singing. And I think his range is a little bit higher, maybe a little less pitchy in spots. But to me, that was what pushed him over the top. But just some fantastic songs on here. Eye of the Jaguar starts off real fast paced. Beyond the Stars, Tyrant's got some great metal riffs in there. And the thing about this band is like the musical passages when they go into the guitar solos and that just that driving musical energy and riffing underneath all those lead work. It's just so engaging and captivating. It's a great album, and every time I listen to it, I want to listen to it again and again. So number two and one, I thought they could maybe interchange, but not so much. I'm happy with where they're at. Number two is a thrash metal band from Texas. Band's called High Command, and they are on Southern Lord Records, and the album is Eclipse of the Dual Moons. Was real high on this band when their debut came out. They sound very similar to Power Trip, Enforced, with more of a blackened kind of element to it a little bit, mostly in the vocal delivery. But I hesitate to use the label crossover that gets attached to a lot of these newer thrash bands, because I don't hear a lot of punk, that traditional punk element that was in early crossover. I just think it's straight early old school thrash. And a lot of the things you're going to hear on this are like the things you heard for the first time when you first put Kill 'Em All on, and then even some of the dual guitar harmonics that you got from Slayer, and then there's my favorite track on the album, Immortal Savagery, is like the meanest thing since Peace Sells that you've heard since Megadeth. I think really kind of forgot how to play really thrashy Megadeth songs. Not dissing on Megadeth, but that's the energy that I get from listening to them. So again, they're not reinventing the wheel, but the youthful exuberance that's in the songs is just great. And then the number one for me, I was really surprised this was going to be it, but I just enjoy this album. Every time I listen to it, I just could pick up something new again. And it's from the veterans. This is the band Satan, one of the original new wave of British heavy metal bands with Earth Infernal, released on Metal Blade Records. Great thing about them too, I'm pretty sure it's the total original lineup minus maybe a different bass player. But if it's not the whole lineup, it's everybody but one. So I like that. A band that I remember at 11, 12 years old picking up a compilation album from the local record store that had a bunch of old, the emerging British heavy metal bands on it, and that was one of them, from a track from the classic album Court in the Act. And it's just, they're not ripping anybody off at all, because they're one of the originators of this new wave of British heavy metal sound. And again, it's everything that you like about metal. It's got great guitar work, great vocals. The song structure, songwriting is so good, and it's a real roller coaster of a listening experience, and from start to finish. I've never bored with it. All the songs are high quality. The guitar tone is a little cleaner, I kind of think, than some of the it doesn't have like that kind of thrash or brash tone to it. A lot of really clean guitar work, but it's still heavy, and the songs are really heavy. And the rhythm section of this album is just amazing. The drumming, spot on. The foundation is laid very well for it. So every time I listen to it, I want to listen to it again. And not only is it my favorite album of 2022, I think it's one of the best metal albums I've heard in the last at least 5 years. So I really like it that much. So there's my top 5 of 2022.
Nice. Yeah, you got a lot of nice more underground type picks on there. And that Satan album, yeah, that probably would have broke my top 15 because that was a really great, yeah, that was a good album. And now I got to check out this band Mall for the way you described this vocalist. I've got to hear this now.
Well, and he's this big guy, and he's imposing, and he looks so frightening. And then you could go talk to him, and he's just like this. He's this teddy bear, this giant teddy bear of a dude. And he also, I don't know if he still does or not, but he did amateur professional wrestling, and his character was I can't. There's a band name. Anyway, I did a video artist you should check out on my channel featuring this album and the band, and I talk a little bit about that. But yeah, just I like them a lot. I hope that they have a bright future ahead of them.
Awesome. And tell us the name of your channel again.
It's the Vinyl Junkie Record Shop.
Okay, so everybody out there, make sure you check that out and subscribe to that channel. So, all right, cool. Yeah, man, great picks. Reminds me that I always keep saying I got to explore more, more like underground type bands and trying to find new bands. I sometimes find myself kind of stuck in a rut just listening to, the bigger name bands and everything. But seemed like there was so much music in 2022 that it was really like, the floodgates opened, and it was really hard to stay on top of everything and just to pick, the stuff that was going to make it onto my top 10. So yeah, but great list. Okay, Kevin, you want to give us your top 5?
Sure.
You know what? We're lost you on your microphone a little bit. It's a little hard to hear you. We can hear you a little.
Sorry, my headphones. Is that better?
A little bit. Keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. I think it's getting a little louder. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah. So just following up on what you were saying, it's a great year for music. Probably listened to more music this year than I have in quite a few years. Just many different types of music, metal.
You know what? We're still losing you, Kevin. We're still losing you. The sound is cutting in and out. So maybe I'll go to. There we go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. I don't know what I did, but if it's still good, I'll go.
Yeah, try it again.
Okay. So I'll just jump right into it. My number 5 was Porcupine Tree, Closure Continuation. I think it was announced at the end of 21 that this album was coming out. And so it was quite a build-up, sort of out of nowhere, but I think it's a great album. I saw the band on the tour. They played the entire album in its entirety, fit in with some of the older hits, and everything just filled in seamlessly. It's not, at the top of their catalog, but I think it's still really good. Some great songs on there. I hope they keep going. We'll see. I haven't heard if I think they're still they wrapped up the tour recently, but don't know if they're gonna produce another album, but I like it. So number 4 for me was Marcus King with Youngblood. Just a young guy, I think he's 25. Sounds like old ZZ Top, this album to me. A little bit more of a vocal singer, but great groove, great solos galore. I saw this band too before the album dropped. He comes out on stage with about 7 or 8 piece band, and they are just super tight. Got horn players, keyboardists, and then he's singing and doing all the leads. It's on a great show. Great album. I think it's his best album yet. And I liked all the stuff when he had Marcus King band, and now his solo stuff. I think it's his best one yet. And I heard he's already working on another album, and can't wait to hear it. So number 3 was King Buffalo with Regenerator. Kind of Pink Floyd meets Black Sabbath with some space rock elements in there. I saw them at a full plug this year. Probably the best show I saw all year. Yeah. If you've heard these guys' albums before, the production is just stellar. It's very, you can pick out every instrument. It's just pristine, but it's not, digital sounding or anything like that. And that's just how they came across live. It just sounds great. The singer is, he's got his own style. It's not anything, virtuosic, but it's, the playing is great. It really builds and builds. It's a jammy type feel. They really get a groove going, and then it goes other places. And the songs are long. They're usually 5+ minutes, going up to 10 minutes or 12 minutes. So great band. Number 2 is one of my favorite bands of all time. I was really looking forward to this one this year, and they really delivered. Queensryche, Digital Noise Alliance. I think the last 4 albums they've done with Todd have been just stellar. They keep getting better. I think this is the best one that they've done with Todd, and to me, it slots in right behind, say, Promised Land from the old classic lineup. If this come out in the mid-late 90s, I don't think anyone would have questioned it. It's that classic Queensryche style. Great songs, beginning to end. There's no real, sometimes these albums start out strong and then they fade. This one just consistent all the way through. I even like the cover at the end, Rebel Yell, the Billy Idol cover. It's great. They played it just real faithful to the original, but I'm glad they put it at the end, and so it feels like a true bonus track and not. Sometimes these bands slide a cover into the middle, and you're like, what the heck? But great songs. In Extremis, Lost in Sorrow is great. Classic Queensryche, and then Forest. It's got that old kind of silent lucidity vibe to it. Kind of slows down. It's sequenced perfectly in the album, just great. And then my last album from an old classic band as well. And I keep going back to it. I keep playing it. I love the riff. I love the singing. I love the solo guitar work. Striper, The Final Battle. I know they get a lot of crap, but I think they're great. And if you've listened to them since, I think, 2010 on, those last 5 albums, they are very solid. The production's great on this one. Michael Sweet, the singer, sounds phenomenal. He sounds better than ever. Him and Ozbach on, sharing the lead guitar. They're so underrated, I think, in the metal world as far as kind of the twin guitar attack. There's riffs on here that remind me of Painkiller era Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Songs like Rise to the Call. I love the song See No Evil, Hear No Evil. That riff sounds like Sabbath to me. And then he's got sort of a line that goes over the top with one of the guitars. I think the criticism I always had of old Stryper was these kind of soft, piano-y ballads that were real sappy. There's none of that. There's one song on here, Near, with kind of a mid-tempo ballad, I guess, but it's still very guitar-driven and has a nice melody to it. But yeah, great album. And these guys just keep pumping it out.
Nice. Yeah, Stryper, I haven't done a Stryper video on my channel, and I have to. I actually have a ton of Striper records because my wife was really into them when she was a teenager. So she collected Striper vinyl. So I've got like tons of
Yeah.
Striper records, and I like them too. And I always tell people like the guitar playing is fantastic. Both Michael and Oz are both great guitar players. And I've seen them live more than once now. And every time I've seen them, their vocals are spot on. And the background vocals, I mean, like 3 strong 3-part harmonies, all the guys singing different notes. Oz has a fantastic like lead voice. He'd be a great lead vocalist just on his own. So they always deliver. Every time I saw them live, they not only from a musicianship standpoint, but vocally, I was always so impressed with them vocally. Their background vocals were just like, wow, just spot on. And the Porcupine Tree, that made it in, I think that was number 10 or number 9 on my list. And I had, maybe one of you guys know this, had been listening to it on streaming for a little bit, and December rolled around and I was like, I want to get this so that I can hold it up for the video. And everywhere I looked, the CD was like $30. I couldn't even find the vinyl. It's like, is it out of print already? I mean, what is going on? It was just like a regular CD, and it was like it was out of print already. Like, did they just print like a limited number of them or something? I was so confused because I was like, wait a minute, this album just came out this year, and it's like it's already out of print, and people want like $35 just for like the normal CD version of it. I couldn't figure out what was going on with it, but it's a great album. And I rant and rave like a lunatic on the channel about the loudness wars and records that are dynamically crushed and everything. That Porcupine Tree album is so punchy. It is so dynamic. I can't remember the name of the song where it's like kind of quiet, and then it comes in with this bum, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da part, and it just flies out of your speakers because it's dynamic. It's like when they play quiet, it's truly quiet. And then when they get heavy, it just comes flying out of your speakers. And when I talk to people, I'm like, you want to hear a modern record that is still, it's powerful, but it's not dynamically crushed. It's not, everything isn't blasting in your face constantly, fatiguing your ears. That album is it. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Steve Wilson, he's the guy right now, when it comes to remixes and remasters and stuff like that. So I guess I wouldn't expect anything less from it. But yeah, just a fantastic album and a sonically amazing sounding record. So, all right, cool, great list. All right, Butch, what do you got for your top 5 of 2022?
All right, some really good picks so far. I mean, some of those ended up in my top, my top 20. Some stuff I got to check out too. It's always cool. Starting with number 5. As a big Doom fan, I guess one of the things that's been kind of a bummer for me is I've kind of felt disconnected from the genre a little bit. It takes a lot more to get me excited about it, which is kind of bums me out because I've been associated with, I've been into it and associated with for so long that, I'm always kind of looking for something to grab my ears in a way that I don't think, oh my God, I've heard that 1,000 times and it's boring me. But there's a band from Italy called Messa. This album is called Close. Female singer named Sarah. I first heard about this band down at the Maryland Doom Fest. I was talking to a cat outside the festival, and he had this shirt on, and I said, "Who's this band?" And he said, "This band Messa. You need to check them out." And I grabbed. I listened to them online. They had their second album is called Feast for Water, and it was one of the most unique things I've ever heard. It was a Doom album, but it was like a Doom, like jazz, it was real heavy and it was doomy, but there was a lot of kind of not jazz like fusion, but jazz almost like old school, kind of like almost loungy's not the right word either, but it was kind of like this smoky kind of jazz thing they had going on that whole record.
Interesting.
It was really cool. The vocals are tremendous. It was one of my favorite albums that year, so I was really looking forward to this one coming out. This is on Svart, great label. I mean, the vinyls, the packaging is beautiful. I don't even know if this is it comes with, like, this is really cool. Like, they do things, there's this booklet. Let me get in here, that's got your pictures of the band, and there's lyrics and photography. I mean, it's a really well done package. But that's almost beside the point, because this album is fantastic. Again, it's really doomy and emotional and moody, and the first song, Suspended, like in the middle of it, slips into this real jazzy lead guitar part. It's really cool to hear. And where this one differs from the last one, and this band just like is trying different things and just incorporating different sounds into doom. There's a lot of like world music elements on here. And then something else too, one of the tracks later in the record, I'm not exactly sure which one it was, but there's one on here that they, at the end of the song, they just bust into just this all out, like, you don't expect it, like this black metal assault.
Wow.
It's wild. Like, you listen to the record and you don't think something like that's going to come along, and then they just bust into it. And it's the one spot on the album that happens. It's like a minute and a half long, and they're done. And it's crazy. I mean, it's a really good record. Again, it's Mesa. It's called Close, and it's on Svart Records. That's my number 5. Number 4 for me was Queensryche. And honestly, if you had told me, even, I don't know, if you told me, right before Todd joined the band, that someday I'd be sitting here telling you that a new Queensryche album was going to be one of my 5 favorite records of any given year, I would have probably punched you in the. No, I wouldn't have punched you in the face, but I, it's what he's done to what him and Wilton and Eddie Jackson have done with the band since Todd joined is nothing less than astonishing, as far as I'm concerned. They've gone from being a complete total mess, embarrassment in a lot of ways, to a proper metal band again. And I'm kind of scared. Like, I hope they avoid completely ever doing a reunion with Tate. I hope the money is never big enough to get Tate and DeGarmo back, because I really love the 4 records they've done with Latour. For me, it's made me fall in love with this band again. For years, I was the guy that said, the EP, The Warning are my 2 favorites, and then I like Rage for Order a lot and Mind Crime, and then I'm out. But I've had to go back. I've reevaluated as I've gotten back into the band, and I've gone back and found like I enjoy Empire now for what it is. And even though it's kind of like, for me, it was always kind of poppy for me, that record. The funny thing about it is I find that this is kind of like Empire, like in a lot of ways, but like if Empire was like a metal record. Like, I never saw Empire as like a full-on metal Queensryche album. It's got a few elements, but it's kind of like commercial. And I think this is kind of like their version of that, but better. For me, the 4 albums they've done with Todd are the best since the original Mind Crime. I do like Promised Land, and I like I said, I enjoy Empire now, but I don't know. I just really like this record a lot. There's a lot going on. There's parts that remind me of old school. There's a little bit that reminds me of The Warning. A lot of pieces that remind me of Rage for Order. And then, like I said, Empire. And, it's all the good stuff about Queensryche. Great double guitar work. The playing's great. The singing's fantastic, of course. I'm trying to listen to some of my favorite songs in this one. I really like Behind the Walls. Sick Death is one of my favorites. And Tormentum, fabulous song. I really can't. I really isn't a duffer on this one. It's good. Rebel Yell is cool, like Kevin was saying. I'm glad it's the last song on the record, though. I mean, because it would take away from it if it was stuck in the middle, because it really is just a throwaway. But that's number 4. Let's see here. Then number 3 for me is the second record from Summerlands. Or Summer. I don't know if I don't know how to pronounce this. Like I probably should by this point, but
I got one M.
yeah, I mean, this is one of those bands, like I liked their first record, but I didn't love it. And a lot of people loved it. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm missing with this record, but it's not connecting with me. So when this came out, I like to check out new music all the time. And so I checked it out and I was like, my jaw was on the ground. Like, this record is so good. It's like, and one of the things I like about it is it's traditional metal, but it's not like, there's a lot of trad metal going on right now that it seems like some of the bands are content to just leave it at 1986, 1987.
Yeah.
These guys, like, it doesn't sound like a complete and total throwback. Of course, there's a lot of that. I think it holds up in today's era without being like too modern or anything. But it reminds me a lot of like, I think there's a lot of Queensryche on here. I hear Fifth Angel. What else was I? What are my notes here? A little bit of Dokken. Like, it's like just good straight up melodic metal. And I like Phil Swanson as a vocalist a lot. I really do. But I got to tell you, like, Brendan Radigan on this record, like, just the way his voice fits the band, like, I just think it changed the way this band sounds just enough that I just think it ups their game some. It's a great record. I mean, it's got great vocals. There's tons of hooks. The production is clean and clear. The playing is fantastic. I think Twilight Points the Way. The first song is one of my favorites on here. Dream Killer, the title track, is great. Night Ride is really cool. It starts off like, you'd almost think, if you didn't look at the track list, when Night Ride starts, you'd think they were doing a cover of Screaming in the Night by Crocus, because it comes in almost the exact same way. But that's a really great song. And then Force of a Storm is cool. It has kind of like almost like an 80s Aussie vibe, like Around the Ultimate Sin, but not as like overly produced kind of thing. Anyway, but yeah, I love this record and I can't wait to see them live. Now I got to go back and revisit the first one again and see if it has grows on me more now that I have more of an appreciation for the bands. Let's see here. Number 2 for me is Pathological by Mythosphere. A great record. I mean, full disclosure, I'm been friends with Darren and Dana and Victor. I did a record with Victor, and I've known Fez, so I've known all these guys for years. But there's a lot of guys in bands that I know, and this album is just fantastic. It finally came a couple weeks ago. I tried to hold off listening to it till my pre-order came, till my record got here, but I couldn't. So I finally just listened to it on Bandcamp. Man, I mean, this is killer. I've liked the Pale Divine records. I like Beelzebuz a lot. This is a different creature than both of those. If you're familiar with those bands, both of them were pretty doomy. I'd say there's still some of that here. It doesn't really have the 70s isms that Beelzebuz had. But again, if you know the musicians in this band, the playing is off the freaking charts on here. And Dana's voice is great. Tons of great, just classic metal riffs. Like, there's everything from like kind of like Sabbathy kind of things, like, but like Heaven and Hell era to, No Surprise with Victor Arduini in the band, some Fate's Warning type of riffs. And this is a tremendous record. The playing great, singing fantastic, songwriting amazing. Some of my favorites are Walk in Darkness, Star Crossed, and Through the Night. But the whole thing is, again, it's just a solid record from top to bottom. And this is on Cruz del Sur Records. So that's Mythosphere, Pathological. If you haven't heard them, check it out. It's a great record. And then number one for me, this band is from Belfast, Ireland. This is Darkest Era, and this is their latest album, Wither on the Vine. I'm not even sure how to describe them entirely. It's kind of like epic. I mean, it's got hints of epic metal, a little bit of doom, and then it has some of more of that English kind of doom thing, like Paradise. There's some Paradise Lost-isms in here, like from middle period Paradise Lost, like around Icon or Draconian times. There's a teeny bit of black metal in the instrumentation, but not in the vocals at all, that are totally clean. Great double guitar work on here. So you know, their influences range from, like, you know, you could tell like Maiden, and then, you know, I would think Paradise Lost factors in there, and you know, it's not far removed in a lot of ways from what Primordial does, except the vocals are completely clean. But even with those comparisons, these guys have their, and girl, have their own sound. Really just like a majestic, moody, it's an overall just an emotional listen. I mean, it's heavy, but it doesn't like bludgeon you with its heaviness so much as like there's a real connects to your feelings kind of vibe with this record. I mean, it is heavy sonically, don't get me wrong, but it's just a tremendous record, and I've been a fan. I like Severance a lot, their last album, and the first one was great, but this is just like off the charts for me. Killer. And I knew I was going to like it. I just didn't, you know, I figured it would be a top 10 record for me, but I mean, it's amazing. It's one of those ones that just really got inside me, and has hit home just in the way that it is. It's just, I love this album. I love this band. And I hope good things for them. They're on Candlelight Records now. They were previously did something on Cruz del Sur, and so hopefully, you know, I don't know if we'll ever get a chance to see them over here, but I hope someday. I've been over to Ireland a few times, and I know some of the members of the band, but I have not gotten to see them yet. And it really bums me out because I would love to see them live. But yeah, that's number one. Wither on the Vine by Darkest Era. Great record. That's my 5.
Right on. All right, that's a great list. I definitely got to check out some of those bands, especially that doom band you mentioned at number 5 there. I'm kind of like you. It's tough for me sometimes with doom because I've listened to so much of it, and I sort of fall in and out with it. So, but yeah, that's a lot of great picks there. Everybody has a lot of great picks and things that I haven't heard of, which is what's cool about this for me, for everybody out there. You know, you can go and check out some of these bands that you may not have heard of. So, all right, William, what do you got for your top 5 of 2022?
All righty. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll just start off by saying I don't have any props yet because, you know, I wanted to make sure I like this stuff first, you know, and I've only been listening to these albums for a few months. So my number 5 is Time and Tyranny by Conquest. I think this is their second album, so they're a really pretty fresh band. I don't even know who any of the people in the band are yet because that little is known about them, but it's a really good power metal album, and I don't say that lightly because power metal is something I'm kind of in and out of. I think it's kind of difficult to make a good power metal album, but I think these guys did a really good job of it. It's a really nicely produced album. If I was going to say there was one track that really grabbed me, I'd say it was the opener, Relativity. It's really majestic and heavy, kind of fast paced, and they kind of had me from there. And then it kind of stays that way throughout the rest of the album. My number 4 is probably not going to be any surprise to anybody, but Saxon Carpe Diem. You know, that's been hyped up all year long ever since it came out. I can definitely see why. I think it's you know, it takes you right back to the new wave of British heavy metal. It sounds like Wheels of Steel and Denim and Leather. And but I was surprised, you know, Bill Bifford's vocals sound pretty good, which is pretty amazing considering what is this, like 30 albums later or something like that. They have Graham Oliver's not on guitar anymore, but they still have Paul Quinn, and they have a newer guy, Doug Scarrett. And I liked the way the songs were done, because a lot of the riffs and overall vibes of the song were, you know, very fast and upbeat, and then the guitar solos tended to be more kind of soulful and melodic, which was kind of took me aback. But I kind of liked that approach to that. The title track is great. The Pilgrimage is probably my favorite song on that album. Supernova, lots of the whole album is just a killer album. There's not a stinker on it. My number 3 is Earthless, Night Parade of 100 Demons. I'd recently heard about these guys, so this was the first album I'd ever heard by them. And I was not disappointed. I'm a big fan of instrumental music. I like old school psychedelic rock stuff. And yeah, I just kind of like the way this stuff just meandered along, and Isaiah Mitchell just jams and solos his way along. It's like he sat down with a metronome and just played along with it or something. I don't know, but it's only only 3 tracks on that album, and it's the longest album I've listened to. It's well over an hour, and but it went quickly. It was just such a good album, and I'd say guitar wise, I can't think of anybody other than somebody I'm about to mention who's on guitar now that I was so impressed with their abilities as Isaiah Mitchell. My number 2 is Spirits of Fire, Embrace the Unknown. This is my first time hearing Chris Caffrey on guitar. I knew he played with TSO and Sabotage, but I'd never ventured into Sabotage past the Chris Oliva stuff. I just hadn't gotten around to it. I hadn't intentionally been snubbing the later material, but so yeah, I went into Spirits of Fire, Embrace the Unknown. Cool album cover, and I got into it, and I was like, man, this guy's guitar tone is killer. He's just a guitar beast. I mean, Chris Caffrey, he reminds me a lot of John Sykes in a lot of ways, a lot of pinch harmonics and that sort of thing. Yeah, there's that album, I'd say, is just about perfect. Probably my favorite song on that would be Remember My Name. It comes near the end of the album. It's a really curious builder, because it's really ballady, and I do like ballads, but I'm a little picky about them. And it's a really mellow, serene type of song. And then at about 2.5 minutes, Chris Caffrey just busts into this guitar solo, and it's not a super fast or shreddy type of guitar solo, but the song is so slow and melodic that it kind of feels like he's shredding. And so I like the moodiness of it, of just going to a ballad and going into this pretty big guitar solo. So that would definitely be a highlight from that album. And then my number 1 is Electric Elite by Riot City. The album is, you know, it reminds me of like mid-80s speed metal. The vocalist was just screaming up a storm. He reminds me of Jeff Scott Soto and the kind of the screaming he would do on the Yngwie albums. And yeah, perfect album. Eye of the Jaguar is easily my favorite tune on there. But Beyond the Stars, Tyrant, great tracks. And I think I pinpointed the reason why I think Riot City Electric Elite was my favorite album to come out this year. There were a lot of good albums by old bands like Saxon and Queensryche, you know, which I was a big fan of. But, you know, that was old school bands coming out with metal albums that sounded like older albums, which I love, because I love, the new wave of British heavy metal and old Queensryche and all that. But for me, Riot City is, they're a totally new band, and they came in 2022 and made an album that sounded like an old 80s album. And for me, that kind of just automatically put them right on top of the pile. I actually heard this before my 2 through 5 picks, and I knew it would be my number one before I got through 2 through 5. So yeah, that's my top 5.
Nice. Yeah, that Riot City, I was really late to that one, and it was actually somebody in the comment, might have been one of you guys, that was like, no Riot City. And I started listening to it. Yeah, and I mean, I do really like it. I think if just somehow I didn't catch on to it sort of early enough. But yeah, all right. So some really fantastic picks here. A lot of stuff for me and for everybody out there to explore. And all right, so how about before we go, we'll go quickly around the horn here and give us just a few albums that you're musical things, concerts, or anything that you're looking forward to musically in 2023. So Mariner, we'll kick it back to you. What are you looking forward to in 2023?
Real quick to talk about to latch on to what William said, Chris Caffrey. I love hearing somebody mention him. That guy is a really underrated guitar player, and I've loved him since his Sabotage involvements and with TSO. And my big wish list, if it could happen, I don't know that it will, but my wish list is that those guys in TSO who are remaining the final remnants of Sabotage will finally record a proper new Sabotage album, because I think John Oliva still has some gas in the tank. And I was really late to this. I mean, it came out in 2001, so the album's 22 years old now. But Poets and Madmen, that thing is heavy, and it shreds, and it is heavy because of Chris Caffrey. And, no one will ever be Chris Oliva, one of the greatest metal guitar players ever, riff writers ever. But Sabotage, one of my favorite American metal bands of all time, and I would love to see a proper reunion of sorts of what's left of them instead of a new TSO album, which I think is what we're more likely going to see if we see anything, is a new TSO album. But real quick, if you can see it, band is Wraith. They're a speed metal band from northern Indiana. They've got a few albums under their belt. Absolutely fantastic up and coming thrash speed metal band. I think they've got some new music on the horizon. I mentioned Enforced earlier. I've heard that they've got some new music that they're working on. Another one of my favorite underground newer American metal bands is a band called Condition Critical, based out of New Jersey. And I know most of those guys that we chit-chat and forth back on social media, and from all I can tell is they've got an album that's going to be coming down the pike also. And those are all kind of more newer underground bands. The other big one that I'm waiting for is coming out here in a couple days, and that's the new Obituary. I think that is just going to absolutely steamroll people's heads. And then I'm kind of looking forward to the. I think everyone's looking forward to the new Metallica. I think the new song I think it's okay, but I'm excited to see what else we're going to get with them, and hopefully they can rechannel some of their more youthful exuberance again. But there's going to be so much good music coming out. Those are just a few. So much more. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a
Great
good
year.
year, I think. All right, Kevin, what are you looking forward to in 2023?
Okay. I jotted down a few that I know are coming out, or I pre-ordered, and then I had a small wish list too. So I think the new Riverside album, they're a Polish prog rock metal outfit. Their new album drops this month. I already pre-ordered that. They've released at least one song I know that's really good. Rival Sons, I think their new album is slated for March. I've heard one new song. It sounds really good. They had I think they even a big kind of media campaign online for the video. It was kind of cool. The Metallica album, yeah, I'll give that one a shot too. I actually quite liked the last one, Hardwired. I thought that was good. I hope they kind of stay in that lane. That would be good. So those are the ones I know I'm looking forward to. And then I jotted down a few that I think we're due for, like maybe a new Opeth album. I would love that. I love their last few with, since they sort of went full on prog and ditched the death metal vocals. I like both, but I really like their last few albums.
Mhm.
I think Anthrax has been teasing a new album for a long time. I would love to hear that. I think their last two were really great. And then I also think Alice in Chains is due for a new album. I like the William Duvall era. I like all their albums, honestly, but I think Jerry Cantrell has really been focused with his solo work, and then hopefully he wraps up that and we get a new Alice in Chains album in 2023.
Nice. Yeah. All right, Butch, what are you looking forward to in 2023?
Well, I know it's going to be every year is stacked anymore. Of the stuff I know that's come out, I'm on board also with the Rival Sons and Metallica. For sure, I love the last two Metallica records. They could probably do a little bit of selective editing on both those records, but overall, I mean, they made me really like fall back in love with the bands again. So Metallica for sure. I think Priest is coming out to have a new record out. And Firepower was amazing, so I have high expectations for that. Angel's new record is going to be coming out soon. Called Once Upon a Time. It was supposed to. They initially said they were going to try to get it out in the fall, but I think they're saying March, or I know they're going to start doing some tour dates in April, so I'm hoping that it's out by then. They play some new stuff. Let's see, the new Black Star Riders is coming out. So I'm looking forward to that, although it's gonna be a little weird for me without Scott Gorham in the band, but the new songs they did really sound promising, so I think that'll be cool. I think High Spirits is due for a new record this year. I'm looking forward to that. A new Riot 5 or Riot V or however the hell, I always just call them Riots. Donnie's been talking about a new one for them, so I'm looking forward to that. Then as far as others, in terms of concerts, I got Angels coming up in April. Going to see the Silver Sun Pickups finally. And I'm hoping to see Queensryche as well. And then in terms of soon to come reissues from the reissue category is that Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous box set that has like 8 CDs in it. It's kind of like the UFO one where they're releasing like a lot of the concerts that they pulled from to make that record. So I'm looking forward to getting that. So that's what 2023 is looking like for me so far.
Nice. Well, when that Angel record comes out, I'm inking
I'm
you
all
in
over that.
to come on the channel here. You're the guy that's going to come on and talk about that new Angel record.
I will.
Butch is the Angel. He's the Angel guy. So, all right, William, what are you looking forward to in 2023?
Uriah Heep's coming out with an album this month, I think. I'm looking forward to that. They haven't come out with an album in 5 years, I think. I'm kind of not looking forward to it because I'm kind of guessing it'll probably be one of their last efforts, if not their last. But I don't know. They've never really come out. They've not come out with a bad album since the 80s, really. So it should be good, whatever it is. Steve Vai's coming out with an album pretty soon, which I was kind of surprised about since he came out with Teeth of the Hydra, which was a really good album too. But I am kind of excited about the Steve Vai album because Teeth of the Hydra, I think, was one of his best albums in a long time. And it's kind of unusual too, because I don't know, for the last 20 years, Steve usually takes about 7 or 8 years in between each album. So I thought it was kind of unusual of him to come out with 2 within a year of each other. But I'm like, I don't know, maybe it'll be something a little fresher. But well, it's Steve Vai, it'll always be fresh. But Robin McCauley is coming out with a solo album, I believe. And I heard the Black Swan album, Generation Mind, from last year. It almost got my top 5. But Robin sounds exactly like he did in the 80s almost. He just sounds fantastic. I don't know.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's the main ones I've got on the radar. But you know, I'll probably get into a lot of underground stuff and a lot of stuff I've never heard before. So,
All right, awesome.
oh, quick,
Yeah.
I was wondering if anyone ever heard about Jeff Beck passing away.
Oh yeah, we were talking about it before we came
Yeah, it's a
on.
bummer, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be doing a video. If I don't do it tonight, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. As I've been spinning, some of the records I have by him. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was just totally a shock out of left field, and just an amazing guitar player. And I mean, if you're unfamiliar with Jeff Beck, or you're not aware of his impact, because he never really had quite the commercial success that maybe some other, like Eric Clapton, for instance, had. I mean, you just need to go and read pretty much any guitar player, especially the guys from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. I was just listening to that. They all cite Jeff Beck as an influence. Schenker, Blackmore. I mean, he is the guitar player's guitar player. He was a hugely influential guitar player that was so, was able to do so many things. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a tribute video coming up on my channel here. So that's really sad news. That happened.
Yeah.
Sort of broke a few hours before we made this video here. So, all right, well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me here at the Lair. This was really a lot of fun, a lot of fantastic top 5 picks for 2023. I know I'm going to be going back and checking out some of these albums that I missed, and a lot of top 5 for 2022, and a lot of exciting stuff coming out for 2023. I think for me, The Priest and Metallica, those are going to be the ones that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about. The Uriah Heep, William, I think you mentioned that. I even think King Diamond. Doesn't King Diamond have something scheduled for 2023?
Merciful Fate too.
Yeah, Florida Deicide and Obituary, Florida death metal. And I'm really into The Last in Line, the band with Vivian Campbell and Vinny Appice, and so they have a new album coming out. So I'm looking forward to that. So lots of cool stuff in 2023. Hopefully I'll have these guys back on the channel again. We'll talk about some of those cool albums that are coming out here in 2023. So thanks again to everybody, and to everybody out there. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal. Where the heck is the stop button? They moved the stop button. Great. Now I got to edit this out. Where the hell is
video editor?
I don't see the I don't see. Oh, okay. They moved it up here.